Welcome back to the show, everybody. The battle over the future of the House of Lords continues, and we've got the cabal of the corrupt politicians who want to turn into even more of a politicized chamber just to get their cronies in by electing them. So they're going to give you the illusion of democracy, but in reality, we're just going to see two corrupt chambers. Now, of course, there are the others who will just want to keep it as it is with political appointees. That's not a good idea either. Go back to basics. That's what Peter Hitchens says. And this is where Peter Hitchens destroyed Keir Starmer's plans to turn the House of Lords into another corrupt chamber.
Well, the House of Lords was defensible until they got rid of the hereditaries. It was a brilliant system under which most of the members of the House of Lords owed nothing to any government. And the illustration of that was the almost total absence of power of the whips who enforced the will of the executive on members of Parliament all the time, quite brutally, had no power in the Lords. If the Lords wanted to reject what the government wanted to do because it was stupid or wrong, they could do so. They didn't do it enough, but they did do it.
You know what's funny? Firstly, the beginning of it, when he talked about defending the tradition that we had, the whole of the panel, the whole of the establishment, the elitist idiots, including Joe Coburn as the host, were like, what are you talking about? It's because they don't want to lose their own power. They don't want to lose their own control. Peter Hitchens was absolutely spot on, because he said, well, those who used to be in that chamber, because they didn't have to bribe anybody, they couldn't be corrupted, they didn't have any vested interest, they could just get on with the job. They can't be bought out. And of course, the government whips didn't have the power to go into the House of Lords to whip them, metaphorically. That's the job of the House of Commons. You do your political games and the dirty games and dealings in the Commons. The Lords were supposed to be the grown-ups, not anymore.
And Labour, by getting rid of them, effectively disemboweled the Lords. And what we have now is a ludicrous chamber of cronies, which is far too big and unwieldy. And the idea of replacing it with a democratically elected chamber is incredibly dangerous. You have two democratically elected chambers competing against each other.
Well, invite Peter.
Again, he's spot on. Even in America, he's actually going to say in the next bit, even in America, they used to have a better system until they ruined it.
The United States Senate was not elected until 1915. It was deliberately designed to copy the House of Lords, to be free from what was called the fury of democracy. It's a perfectly good idea to have a non-elected second chamber, and one which I think we're very foolish to get rid of. Now we have got rid of it. To replace it with an elected second chamber will be a constitutional disaster. Imagine having two elected chambers fighting each other.
Exactly. And they've been selling this lie to us since the 20th century, that, you know, it's like talking to kids. They would say, why are you arguing against democracy? Do you not like more democracy? It's not democracy in terms of people power. You're transferring powers to the establishment. You're pretending that people have a say, but they don't actually have a say. This is not real democracy. If just because someone would go and vote in the ballot box and say, well, I've technically voted for a lord, that means I've exercised my powers, my democratic powers. Not really. That's not how the system works. You're basically condoning bad behavior, and they say, well, the electorate gave us the mandate. They came to the ballot box and they ticked. That means we have every permission to do whatever we want, because democracy. That's not how it works. We used to have checks and balances. When the House of Lords could not be corrupted, when the House of Lords could not be bought because they were not political, that worked. It was the arm of the crown in the Houses of Parliament. Now, you've done political appointees, you've corrupted the whole system, and your solution is to make it even more political. Because you think you're going to give people a say. Oh, we're going to have an elected Senate. Really? You kidding me with that? Oh, dear God. Every single time we have to talk about the same thing. Right. Let's take a break. We're going to come back in half an hour. And we're going to talk to you guys about Nicola Sturgeon's idiotic policy in prisons. You're going to watch this, trust me. It's a bit doom and gloomy, but it's very important to know. I'm Tousi, and we are the media.